done, anyone wants to say anything, just come and say whatever you want. Anything. This takes forever to start up all this stuff. Is everybody ready or not? $24? You ready? Yep. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Relatively short notice. I think we earlier this morning announced that we wanted to have a conversation about what's happening in our country. Let's be honest. We have a problem in our country with race, and we have for as long as we've been a country. Fought a civil war over it. Went through, the era of Jim Crow and everything we're seeing today. We're at another one of those moments in our country's history where we're being challenged to, as Abraham Lincoln talked about, appeal to the better angels of our nature. There was a headline, I think it was in the Blade today, talked about what happened in Minneapolis, talked about how it was 652 miles away, I think it was 652. And that's true. That's true. What happened in Minneapolis, Minneapolis is 650 miles away. But that doesn't mean that what happened there does not affect us here in Toledo. And as much as I respect our police department, I think everyone knows I'm a son of a police officer. And I believe in our chief and everything he's doing. It also doesn't mean that something like that couldn't happen here. I think the point of what's happening in America is that it could happen anywhere. And so what we need to have are difficult conversations with each other. Difficult conversations with people who are not like us. People who believe different things and maybe have different color skins and different life experiences. I don't know what the answers are to what troubles our country on race, but I do know that we will never find the solution if we don't talk to one another. Because of that, about 2 hours ago, and you saw us walking across the street, we had a meeting over in council chambers today. This is just a very small subsection of the group that was there. There were probably, I don't know, what would you say, 50 or so community leaders, primarily African-American leaders, from our rapid response team, pastors, community leaders, folks from the HRC, and just activists and everyone in between. Certainly wouldn't say it was an exhaustive list. I'm sure that there were people that needed to be in that room that weren't, and we will work on correcting that over the next several weeks as we move forward as a community. But I just felt we needed to start the conversation in a meaningful way. On a personal note, I have really struggled this week with the video that we've all seen coming out of Minneapolis. It literally made me sick to my stomach. And I have reflected back, the closest comparable, and it's not the same at all, was the officer-involved shooting we had in Toledo 2 summers ago. And so I remembered, I've been reflecting on that, and I remembered some of the steps we took then to calm the community. And And so really what I tried to do today is to kind of maybe begin that same process. I remembered 2 years ago, frankly, I called many of the same people I called today, members of council, pastors, NAACP, civil rights folks. I can't remember if you were there yourselves, or certainly your stations were. We gathered up in the mayor's office. We had a news conference that night. And I do think that hopefully played some role in calming tensions over in the LaGrange neighborhood. In a similar fashion, I suppose that's probably what motivated the phone calls I made this morning to set up this meeting. I just felt that it was important that we just talk. And so that's what we did this afternoon. And as we go into a weekend that we'll have several protests already scheduled in our community, protesting what happened in Minneapolis. I know there's two already scheduled. It's all over Facebook. One of them's going to be right here, right in front of headquarters, police headquarters. I want to say that there should be protests. Are you kidding me? If now is not the protest, if now is not the time to protest, after what happened in Minneapolis, I just don't know when you ever would. What happened was wrong in every level. I'm glad to hear that the officer was arrested maybe an hour ago, 2 hours ago. I hope he is prosecuted. I hope he is convicted. But even if all those things happen, it will not replace, certainly won't bring Mr. Floyd back to life. But more than that, it won't erase the tension and distrust that still exists in too many places in our country, including in Toledo. Minneapolis may be 652 miles away, but Columbus, Ohio is even farther away than Toledo is, and yet they saw riots and fires being set in that city. Louisville, Kentucky is even farther away than Columbus, and civil unrest and rioting took place there, and Denver, and elsewhere around the country. Frankly, urban America is angry for a lot of reasons. And this is an event that really threatens to push us to the breaking point. And so, while part of what I want to do here today is to encourage people to protest, because I think it's warranted, it is my hope that those protests can take place peacefully and as respectfully as possible. I tweeted out today and put on our social media a small snippet of a speech that Bobby Kennedy gave at the the City Club of Cleveland, the day after Martin Luther King was assassinated, April 5th, 1968. It's known as his mindless menace of violence speech, and I think it's very timely. That's why I tweeted it out, but I might suggest that Bobby Kennedy said that, violence begets violence, and distrust begets distrust. And what we need in the world is not more hate and violence, but more understanding. I just want to encourage us, as outraged as we are, as outraged as I am, as sick to my stomach as I am, that change needs to happen. But it can happen in the context of peaceful protest. And that's part of, I think, what the message for today is. But beyond that, as we mentioned at this meeting, that is the very, very short-term goal of today's conversation. That's not the end of the process. There is a long-term commitment and need to continue the dialogue, to continue to bring about change. See Chief Earl over there. He was at that meeting this afternoon. I think a lot of productive ideas were advanced about different things the police department can do to promote trust and transparency with the community. We're going to be adopting those measures, and we're going to continue this dialogue with the community. But but especially as we embark upon this weekend and as we begin to enter what could be a very hot summer. I wanted to make sure Toledoans understand how troubled we all are by not only what we saw in Minneapolis, but by the inequities and injustices that still exist in our country and in our city. And we are mindful of them, respectful of them, and are working in our way to alleviate them and to, again, since I quoted him once, I may as well not stop here, as Bobby Kennedy also said, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. That is our goal. And I hope today is our first step in Toledo. Those are all the comments I have. You know, I am truly and earnestly interested in anyone who wants to make a comment to do so. This was a little bit of an unusual meeting and an unusual news conference. There was a need to socially distance, but we wanted to all be together in the same place to feel the emotion and the passion that so many people felt. So we picked council chambers, frankly, because we could spread out a little bit. And we spread out, we wore masks. So we're trying to have the conversation we need, which I think had to be a face-to-face conversation, in a way that's still respectful of the crisis. So that's why we held where we are, and that's why we're a little spread out. That's why we're wearing masks. So I know Councilman Sykes would like to say something. That anyone else who would like to, I would certainly welcome that.
I just want to thank the mayor for taking the initiative and taking the lead on this. This is critically important. We're at a crisis at this time in our country, and we've seen the damage that anger and frustration can do. We want people to protest it. It's their right, but we hope they would protest in a rightful manner and not cause destruction to others or in facilities within our city. I think the mayor has made a commitment. The people that were there are the ones that are leader in this community, and I think we'll go forward with his promise and commitment to meet again. So I'm very supportive of the mayor, his administration, for what they've done. And let's keep reminded that a man lost his life, Breonna Taylor lost her life, and pray for those families. God bless.
I'm going to be brief, but what I want to say is that the racism that exists today, that's not new. That's been here for a long, long time. The relationships between police and people in neighborhoods of color, that's not new. That's been around for a long time. The fear, that's new. The fear of it being able to happen in a city like Toledo, that's new. Minneapolis, in a lot of ways, is a lot like Toledo. And if we don't find a way to have dialogue with each other and continue to listen to one another, then that could happen here in Toledo. And so I'm going to do all I can as someone who was elected to try to help resolve problems in the city of Toledo, to work with our mayor, to work with our police chief, to bring people together, to have that dialogue and actively listen to what they actually have to say and see if we can't come up with real solutions that'll keep things like that happen in Minneapolis from happening here in Toledo. So thank you.
I want to say first, thank you to the mayor for inviting us out on today.
You should introduce yourself.
I'm Reggie Williams. I am the executive director of the Frederick Douglass Community Association. And I, as a black man, as a father, as a son, I'm tired, frustrated, mentally drained. It's got to stop. And so we as brothers in the community, sisters in the community, we urge one another to understand that it's important that we unite and stay focused, that we got to bring justice. Justice must be served. Justice must be served. And so in our communities, we see it time and time and time again. I want to say that we have to remain consistent on purpose, not to fizzle out, not to go back to the norm. We have to move forward with a focus to maintain that justice be served and that our voices collectively be heard. If people can protest at state houses with their guns, spit at the police, and I'm talking about our white Caucasian counterparts, and nothing happens, but a black man comes and then he's pepper sprayed, tear gassed, and he has no weapon, that's a problem. That's a problem. This nation was created and formed on hate. My brothers of every shade, they hate us. They want us to see us killed. That's the objective of America today. And we're saying no more. Enough is enough. And social media and people that congregate and celebrate the death of our brother in Minneapolis, it's hard to see that people will want us to be dead. We're human beings, and I am a man. I am somebody. I have feelings too. I love, I hurt, I bleed, just like you do. But it's time. Enough is enough, and justice must be served.
I think it's so important in these kind of moments and times for all of us to know that there are more good people in our countries, in our cities, in all of our homes, all of our neighborhoods. There are more of us who want something great to happen, who want us to love each other and to live for a better community than there are the small number of people that try to cause every manner of evil and disrespect and harm to one another. I'm honored to be a part of this meeting today with our community because I believe in Toledo that we have a great number of people, both sacred and secular, who are looking for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Anyone want to say anything? Anyone?
I'm David Ross, and I represent the community of Toledo, and we need to come up with a structure to where we cannot tolerate racism in any form from Toledo, the police department, from the media, from anyone. We need to come together. I challenge everyone to come together and eliminate racism from all of these organizations, because a man was killed cold-blooded and he disguised himself in a police uniform. And that's a problem in this country. And we need to come together and do something about that. Because if you ignore it, you're just as bad as a problem.
My name is Earl. I was glad to be at the meeting. I don't think it was a political meeting. I think that the mayor really cared about what's happening in our city. But I think he do have a clear understanding about where we sit, and that is that we're not tolerating it no more, and that there needs to be some action done right now, and we no longer wait. One of my requests, I had two simple requests. One of them was simply that we need to stop hiring people to work in our community, particularly police officers who have had no experience or very little experience with black people. And if they're going to be in our neighborhoods, they need to be trained for a very long time to get a better understanding about African Americans before they work in our community. We need to hire more African American police officers to work in our community, and as simple as that. Because I truly believe, and I know this is fact, and I think you all know it too, that you cannot train out hate. You're not going to train out hate. And we know that what we've seen over the last, we talking about the killings in the last few years, this stuff been going on for centuries. So we got to understand that we can't train out hate, and that we need to remove it. And that's the only way we're going to solve the problem in that regard. The other thing is that, and this is to you, the media, could you please tell your supervisors, whoever is in charge of your programming, to stop showing that carnage over and over and over again? We done seen it enough. It reminds me of the day when they sent out postcards when black men was being lynched and people were celebrating our deaths and install fear within us. Please stop showing that carnage. We have little children, grandchildren, that's seeing this stuff over and over again. That's not helping us. We know he died. We know how he died. We don't need to see 5 more video footages on news tonight showing him being choked to death. We don't need to go back to the shooting that happened in Toledo, giving it a comparison. Don't show us that stuff no more. If you really want to be an ally to the black community, you'll make a strong effort in doing that. And if you don't, then we know who you are. And then we got to find other ways to protest against you as well as others who's not going to really be our allies.
I don't know if you have questions as a group or if you want to do one-on-ones. I guess I would just, no one else wants to say anything, and we got folks behind you that might want to talk to you also. I might just end with this. Like I said, this meeting was pulled together really quickly, especially some of the events that happened overnight in Columbus and other cities. I just felt it was the time. And I struggled about the right way to have this meeting because of the coronavirus. And we actually had people joining us by Zoom and whatever. And that might seem like a technical point. Why do you keep hammering that point? You heard Reggie. Is Reggie still behind me? He's gone. Reggie from the Frederick Douglass Community Center. I served on that board with him. The point of having that meeting in that room, distanced as we were, was to hear that, to hear that anger. There were moms and dads in that meeting that were crying. As I walked across the street after the meeting with Chief Kral, I had a little huddle with him, and obviously we have a lot to talk about. But I said to him, you know what? We need to hear that. We need to hear that. We need to hear the anger and the fear. And as unpleasant as it may have been, I'm sure for the chief to be there, this is our job. People are hurting in our country and our city. And we're trying to do everything we can to understand. So, thank you, everyone. Do one-on-ones or whatever you want. So, thank you. I appreciate it. I apologize for being late. I know we were late a couple